None, Butch? No?
No.
Consent agenda items A through G. I need a motion to approve, please.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through G as presented.
And a second.
I second that.
Thank you, Butch and Dustin. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries 3-0, Donna. Next item, issues from persons not on the order of business this evening. Do we have anyone? Do we have any new employees we'd like to introduce? Mental Health Awareness Month proclamation. Mental Health Awareness Month, May 2019. Whereas mental health is an important part of the overall health, and whereas mental health helps to sustain an individual's thought processes, relationships, productivity, and ability to adapt to change or face adversity, and whereas mental health illness adversity affects those abilities and often is life-threatening in nature, and whereas 1 in 5 U.S. adults experiences a mental disorder in any given year, and whereas 1 in 17 adults lives with a serious mental illness, such as a major depression, bipolar disorder, or however you say that word.
Schizophrenia.
Is that how you say that? Wow. That isn't how I ever butchered that. Schizophrenia. And whereas approximately 1/2 of chronic mental illness begins by the age of 14 3/4 by the age 24, and whereas long delays, sometimes decades, often occur between the time symptoms first appear and when individuals seek treatment. And whereas an early identification and treatment can make a profound difference in successful management of mental illness and recovery. And whereas it is important to maintain mental health and learn symptoms of mental illness in order to get help when it is needed. And whereas public education and civic activities can encourage mental health awareness. And whereas every citizen and community can make a difference in helping end silence, stigma, and for too long has surrounded mental illness and discouraged people from getting help. Now therefore, the Board of County Commissioners does hereby proclaim May 2019 as Mental Health Awareness Month in Ellis County, Kansas, as requested by High Plains Mental Health Center to increase public understanding of the importance of mental health and to promote identification and treatment of mental illness. Proclaimed and approved on the 6th day of May 2019. Yep, go ahead. You can come up. It's signed, and that's actually Donna's copy, probably there.
If I could get a copy, do you want the original?
Sandy, you want a picture first with her?
Okay.
Both of us? So, you got to stay up here, I guess. We're going to take a picture with that. Come on, commissioners. Thank you, commissioners. Next item, Kansas Chamber of Commerce President and CEO Alan Cobb.
Good evening. I am Alan Cobb, President and CEO of the Kansas Chamber. I don't know what protocol is, if handouts are.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have enough for the audience if they're interested. Thank you for allowing me to speak for just a few minutes. I met Commissioner Ross just a few weeks ago as part of Leadership Kansas, which is a Kansas Chamber program, and I can tell you what a great advocate he is for Hayes and for the Northwest Corridor. That was the first thing he brought up to me as president of the chamber. Do we get engaged in those issues? And I said, I absolutely will. Yes, we do, and let me come out and see it. And it just worked out that I was in Hayes and Salina and Quinter earlier. We're a business advocacy organization with members all over the state in 80 of the 105 counties, businesses of all sizes. About half our businesses have 50 employees or less. About 10% have 1,000 or more. So represent manufacturers, ag companies, financial services, retailers, the wide variety of Kansas businesses. So I'm also had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Hess and taking a tour of a very impressive company. I don't need to tell you that, of how impressive it is and what a great story it is of American and Kansas success, and something you should be proud that they're proud in your community and all of the great things they do. Seems like pretty uncomplicated project. Well, I'm not a road engineer, so maybe it is very complicated, but it seems pretty straightforward. So if we could be of help, I certainly want to do that. One thing that we do is we work on business issues in the State House. That you'll see on the info sheet, we've got a project we're looking at how to increase Kansas economic growth. We have challenges all over the state, urban areas, rural areas, mid-sized cities like Hayes and Salina, trying to grow our talent supply, increase our competitiveness, expand innovation and entrepreneurship. Again, Hess is a great example of both innovation and entrepreneurship, and improve our business infrastructure. Well, business infrastructure includes paving a road to get business vehicles to and from a major company, a major part of the Kansas economy. So don't want to bore you to death. Happy to take any questions. Again, I appreciate you having me here, and Commissioner Ross for showing me around. I've been in Hayes, of course, a ton of times, but had not ventured north of I-70 too often, and appreciate your time showing me around a very impressive manufacturing company. It's great for my job. What I do is advocate for world-class companies that happen to have a couple hundred employees or 300 or 400 employees in Kansas. Not everything are some of the bigger companies that you'll know of. And Kansas has a bunch of these companies that are doing great things, and I'm proud to be a part of promoting them. So again, happy to take any questions or suggestions. If something pops in your head later that you think we should know about, I should know about, the chamber should be doing differently or better, please don't hesitate to reach out to me anytime.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'll just say it was great meeting you. Alan actually spoke at our initial Leadership Kansas session, and like he said, he took questions from us, and the first question I had as a county commissioner, I popped my hand up right away, is what's the possibility of you guys getting at the state level, trying to work on getting us road infrastructure to a business that desperately needs it? And you just thought for a second. It was a pretty good quick answer of, well, it's not something we typically do, but we have done it before, and I'd be happy to look at it. And if it's something that's needed, I can definitely do as much talking as I can. And so I'm pretty excited that you were able to make the time to do it. Every time I go out to that facility, it's even more impressive to get a little more time to hear what their business has done out there. But as we talked about when we took the rest of the way through Feedlot Road, was it's not just for them. We have a feedlot that wants to expand. We also have a new truck stop that is coming in, or travel plaza that will be coming in. It's taking care of businesses that are already there and expanding what we have for the future. And that was always my goal as a county commissioner, was to sometimes maintaining the relationships that we have with manufacturers is so much more important than trying to go out and get the big fish every time. And the relationship we have with them is we've got a marlin sitting in our backyard, and we just got to take care of it. So I really appreciate you coming out, and I appreciate you in whatever capacity you can do to help us figure out funding for this road. But I'm committed to doing it however we have to do as a county, and I think my fellow commissioners are the same way. But no questions for me, because I've talked with you all afternoon. But these guys might have a few.
I'll respond to a couple of things. Quick things is, a primary function of government is infrastructure, and I think this is a simple project that I'm going to be happy to advocate for Secretary Tolan and the new Secretary of Transportation. There are some examples that on very particular projects that are $4 million is a lot of money, but in the scheme of roads, it's not as much. Caterpillar has a major facility in Wamego, and the facility there makes the huge loaders that are practically the size of the commission room here, or the width. And they had some difficulties getting those products to market. They had to go all the way to Manhattan to get on I-70, and Governor Collier specifically got the money spearheaded for that, and now it's going to save them a lot of time and a lot of money. And again, that's, to me, it's a primary function of government. I think you're also right to promote what you have. I'll say I've been in the public policy business for a long time. Economic growth does not come from recruiting. You cannot recruit your way to economic growth. It does not mean that you should not try to recruit companies to Ellis County or Hayes, but the growth comes from Hess or those companies that started here that are adding 1,000 employees, or Textron and Aviation Wichita is adding 1,000. Don't know where they're going to find 1,000. Good luck to them. But that's where economic growth comes from, the homegrown companies. Yes, we want more companies to move here, but and we love those companies that come here. But that's not where really you get growth. So thank you.
I think not only the road's important, but as Mark and Dan will both tell you, I mean, they could probably use 100 to 150 employees at any given time, like now.
I will say one thing I do is try to compare, hopefully I succeed in comparing Kansas to other states. Is what is the outlier? What makes Kansas different? Mm-hmm. Every state is facing that, and so I think the first state that solves that, which is somewhat of an education infrastructure issue, and we've got educators that I know are committed to doing things differently and trying to find better ways to educate students at K-12 all the way through post-secondary. And that's not a uncommon issue all over the country, and it's not an uncommon issue for all over Kansas in more rural areas than Ellis County, and certainly in the most popular areas of the state. They're challenged on finding a productive workforce from all levels, from folks who there's some jobs that don't even require a GED, and they can't find those folks, to PhDs and engineers that those jobs are open. It's in some ways a good problem to have, but it's a challenge for the U.S. economy for the next decade, in my view.
Thank you, Alan. Butch, any questions?
All right,
Alan, I just want to thank you for coming here tonight, and we will appreciate any assistance you can give us with the projects as Dustin informed you about today.
Yeah, I certainly think you have a compelling case. I don't know what it's competing against, but it certainly seems like it's a compelling case.
Just tell them they have to come to Ellis County and the city of Hayes first, and then they can worry about the other problems later.
That's right. That's what you should say. So
there you go.
And I just also want to thank Mark for giving us a tour of this. I know you're a busy guy, so the idea that every time one of us comes out there in jackets, it's a little annoying, I imagine, at some points, but he found us pretty quick. He goes, a couple guys walking around in sports coats. They're probably not looking for welding applications, so these must be them.
and obviously Mark's an unbelievable salesman for the company, and what enthusiasm he has for it and the great things that they're doing. I always get a kick out of seeing folks who really love what they're doing and what they're providing for the community and all the great jobs and sending things out of Kansas, money from Texas and North Dakota coming to Kansas. That's a good thing.
It's an anomaly.
Yeah.
Well, they do a good job out there. But thank you, Alan, for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you,
appreciate the time.
Your time in the county today. Next item, request for assistance from the City of Victoria. Mr. Bill Ring.
Good evening, Commissioners. Bill Ring, Public Works Director. Before I bring up about Victoria, I have the answer to the question that you all asked on the road tour about the stone arch bridges. We actually have 12 that are still by. I had to go through the way they identify them in the inspection report. The one that we showed you that was repaired is no longer considered that because we have fixed that, and we have another one we had done with culverts. So actually we have 14, but 12 are still considered the masonry stone arch.
Now we know.
So if you're ever on Jeopardy, and the answer is. Anyway, before you tonight is an agenda item, a request from the City of Victoria, which we do this every year as we do with the other cities, looking for a little assistance from our Public Works Department for their Public Works Department as far as with their summer paving. It's pretty straightforward. It's the exact same ask as last year, which you all approved right away, and pretty much same as the year before. So staff is recommending that with your blessing, we go ahead and assist them with what they need. And as it lays out, any of the actual costs will be picked up by the city, so it would just be basically our labor and some time on the trucks or whatever equipment they might need in the process. Any
This time I'll
questions?
ask for a motion or questions.
I move the commission approve the Public Works Department provide assistance to the City of Victoria with both equipment and labor. The City of Victoria will furnish the oil and rock.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion opposed? Nope. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
On Bill, the gentleman earlier we talked about, he sent me a thank you.
Oh,
Next item on the agenda is Fire District Apparatus Purchase. Darren Meyer.
Good evening, Commissioners. Darren Myers, Director of Fire and Emergency Management. I guess first off, if you're getting ready to go play Jeopardy, I would hold off. I think the current Jeopardy winner is about 25 to 30 wins in and a record-winning amount of dollars, so you might have a hard time winning. But I'm here tonight to discuss with you our next budgeted vehicle purchase for the fire district. I didn't introduce him before as a new employee, but I do have my Company 5 chief here, Rusty Lindsay, for the two commissioners who do not know him. He's sitting back there behind Kerry. He's the company chief here, basically the central part of the county for Company 5 here in Hayes. The vehicle that we're getting ready to replace this year is a 1978 International. It's got its years on it, and actually here not too recently, it's got enough rust on it that had a door fall off of it, not allowing us to hold equipment in that door any longer, or inside that compartment. And it is planned once we get moving forward with the Public Works Department to put it on auction as if we can replace it later this year. We did receive 2 RFP responses back and 4 no-bid letters in response to the specifications for our new truck. And as the Commission can see within that packet, the low bid went to Watts Manufacturing out of Salina, Kansas. However, they did not meet the specifications that the committee put together, and Chairman Hazelhorst was also on that committee to help us look at the truck and the design of it as well. The biggest reason for it not meeting the specifications is they designed their trucks with a center compartment between the 2 front seats, basically where the bench seat would be, and that takes 1 out of the 3 available firefighters in that fire truck out of the equation to be able to fight a fire. Basically, you'd have 1 driver and 2 firefighters on the back. You take 1 of those away, you're essentially reducing your capabilities to extinguish a fire by 50% because you don't have that extra nozzle or support back there working. Some of the others, major specifications that were not met, is the compartments were not designed as specified. Some of the compartments were left out. There were a significant difference in the type of fire valves that they were using on the truck. A lot cheaper valves, as well as the nozzles that weren't requested as well. They were not put in there as per the specifications. One thing that we're going to have to fight on this truck if the Commission chooses to move forward is the Ford and Dodge dealerships they've already cut off their 2019 vehicle purchases, so pushes us into the 2020 vehicle year. However, they're taking orders, but the order date will be, or build date won't be till later this year, which will compound that with the additional build time needed for the manufacturer to put the body on the back of the truck. So when you look at 120 days plus the other bid was 240 with Watts, it's going to make that significantly longer on whichever vehicle we do purchase. So with that, the fire district and the committee, we recommend that we purchase the bid from Hayes Fire and Rescue here in town locally for $100,836, as they did meet the specifications. And if the Commission is curious, I can show you. Like I say, I did barely go over what specifications that other truck did not meet, but just for pictures, everything that you can see in purple are line items that were either questionable or did not meet the specifications, in addition to the ones that I did tell you in going through them. So with that, I'll stand for any questions that the commission may have.
I know we talked about it that one night, but have you had a chance to go out and look at the dealerships yet to see if there might be a vehicle that would meet our specs sitting on a lot somewhere or coming down the line that nobody spoke for yet?
I
Or
talked to them, as well as the biggest problem on trying to find one on a sales floor or in a dealership, the ones that I'd visited with, is they usually don't have the fleet model, which is the base model, a work truck, available. And most of them have like the F550s that have the, I don't remember the additional titles that they put on, like the LTZ or the bigger
XL,
packages with
XLT.
chrome and all that. So when they do that, they have a problem taking that truck that's designed for anybody to buy and then reducing that down to a fleet model vehicle, and because there's a big difference in price between the two. And then I also did just try to see if I'd catch my luck if I search on the internet up to 500 miles to see if there was any like F550 available, and the cheapest I found was like $47,000 for just a plain chassis. And the chassis that we were getting prices on last year and this year are around $36,000 to $38,000, so it's about $10,000 cheaper than trying to find that bare chassis on the internet.
You might see with all the factory rebates coming out at the end of the year, you never know, there might be one out there, just looking going forward. But
And that was the thing in speaking with Hayes Fire and Rescue, was they're going to honor their price no matter what price increases will be when the 2020s come out. More than likely there's going to be an increase, but they're going to hold their price to catch that, whether it be higher or lower. But
sure,
I doubt the new vehicles are going to be any cheaper than they were last year.
probably not. Any questions, Dustin?
Yeah, Darren, can you give me an idea on the size of this vehicle and what its use is as far as what it's replacing and what you guys will be doing in the field on it?
So the current vehicle that's being replaced, the 1978, it's basically going to have the exact same style pump, but it has 1,000 gallons of water on a steel-bodied frame. So it's a heavier, bigger chassis, bigger truck. It's great when it gets to the field, but we have troubles getting it there. We actually took the last one that we had in service. We just took it out of service completely. This one here is leaking oil. Lost a compartment door. It's blowing oil by underneath the cab. So basically going from a 1,000-gallon tank truck on a larger chassis to a smaller truck, an F550, which is a 2-ton truck, gross vehicle weight of just under 20,000 pounds, and putting 500 gallons of water on it. However, adding some basic compartments to fit the rescue tools, the backup rescue tools that we have in the county, so that way that truck can also respond not only to the grass fires in the county, it's a 4-wheel drive chassis, but also as a backup vehicle rescue to Hayes, Ellis, or Victoria. And it will also be the primary truck used out at the fairgrounds for all the EMS rescue standbys that we do out there.
Okay.
So that'll be its primary purchase or primary function.
And then I see a note here that you had looked at possibly purchasing something that was used, and you're not seeing anything as far as matches the specifications on the pre-owned market.
Correct. We discussed this with Commissioner Hazelhorst at our committee meeting when we were looking at the truck, and over the last couple of years we tried to keep an eye out for a used or basically a military style vehicle. What they used to call in the old days was a deuce and a half, a 2.5-ton vehicle, and now they call them LMTVs. And we were at last checked number 10 on the list with the Forestry Service. However, that although it's the same vehicle specification weight, it's a larger truck, but the chassis, the tires, and everything puts the body that would be used, all the tools and equipment would be about this high off the ground compared to having some of our tools clear down here.
Okay.
So it's a lot larger truck, but we can't, by specifications, a deuce and a half was 2.5 tons, which is 5,000 pounds, would still only allow us to put about 500 gallons of water on it. We could push that a little bit, but you have that top heavy truck then with the water on it. And then as Commissioner Hazelhorst, one of his concerns during that meeting is we could get a very good truck that's just been completely remanufactured from the military, or we could get, either way, it's going to be a 17, 18-year-old truck, investing the same amount of money on the back of it. So we could get a gym, and we could have something that we're dumping money into constantly each year.
What's the basic dollar difference on something like that? If we were to get lucky and find something like that, how does that compare to this 100,000?
The truck, the last one that we had looked at, and we had pictures at the committee meeting, it sold, I believe, with everything, because you have to design the bed, all the pump, the equipment, everything. It was around 80,000, if I remember right, 75, 80,000.
Okay.
Actually, I think it was 84, Darren.
84.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't remember for sure. So it's
a little bit risky.
It's a little
then.
bit cheaper, but like I say, you're putting brand new equipment on a 20-year-old truck.
Gotcha. That's the only questions I have.
Butch?
But Darren, if the truck was purchased, when do you estimate it would be placed into service?
Well, that's all going to be dependable on when we can get the chassis from the Ford dealership here in town. It'll be a F550, not a Dodge chassis. The Ford came in, I believe, $3,000 under. So they're hoping around September, October when the chassis will arrive. And since they know what style truck it's going to be, they can start pre-building everything, order all the equipment beforehand, and hopefully have the truck before the end of this year. I was crossed my fingers. But based on the dates from last year, I brought this to the commission in August, and we approved it. We got the truck in March. But I was hoping by moving this farther up in the year, we would catch the cutoff date. But they moved that cutoff date earlier than last year. So either way, I missed it. And so we'll be getting a one model year newer truck, but just a few months earlier than we did last year. So right on Christmas time.
Okay.
And this would be an automatic transmission and a diesel truck?
It'll be a gas.
Gas, okay.
Yep.
I know we're trying to switch a lot of the smaller over to gas, right?
The truck we just took out of service was a manual transmission, but the last one we just purchased over in Ellis last year was a gas.
Okay.
And it doesn't get quite as good as gas mileage, but it's also, I don't remember, it was about $8,000 cheaper on the chassis going from a diesel to a gas.
It could have been, I thought it was even more than that, but you might be right.
more.
I thought it was 10 or 11, but maybe not.
Could have been. It was significant enough that make us to consider it, and they like it over there in Ellis. I haven't heard any complaints on them on the gas chassis yet.
Okay. Phil, this is a planned scheduled purchase, essentially. Okay.
Any other questions, commissioners?
No, I don't think so.
If not, I'll ask for a suggested motion.
I'd move to approve the purchase of a 2019 rescue apparatus from Hayes Fire and Rescue LLC in the amount of $100,836.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Donna, motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Darren.
And if I can give you a quick update, the commercial builders, the winner of the bid for the fitness room remodel downstairs, they did start today. I sent Phil and Carrie and Jason an update, but they should be putting in studs and getting ready to work on that project. And Jason and I are planning on going down to La Crosse to meet with Jacob Profit to pick out the equipment that he's wanting to donate for us on that end of it. So that project's moving along. And I've got 5 out of the 10 mutual aid agreements signed. We're still waiting on commissions and districts to sign them. So after the meeting, if I can get you to sign a couple more of them before we leave, I'd appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Darren, you said we had a mutual aid fire that we had responded to today, right?
That was
Is that Sunday?
Sunday night?
Out of Cedar Bluff?
Saturday night.
Saturday night.
Yep, they went out there and had Rooks County, Ellis County, Trigo County, and Ness counties out there on the south lake shore of the cabin, by the cabins.
Oh.
Did not impact any of the cabins. They got the fire stopped and directed around the cabins, and I believe it burnt down into the lake. But it was an interesting challenge out there for all the rain we've got, the moisture, and the ravines and everything from
meetings, and
Questions?
No, as long as Bill's okay with everything here.
I'm fine.
Okay.
I'll still be coming to meetings once in a while. So.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you for volunteering to do that also. We appreciate that, working with Phil. Dustin, any questions?
No, it all looks like what we talked about, so.
We do need a motion to approve if there's no further questions.
Okay.
Dustin?
I move the commission approve the revised agreement with William J. Jeter effective July 1st, 2019.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Right, Butch? You said aye?
Mm-hmm.
Motion carries 3-0. Next item, County Council Report. Bill Jeter.
County Councilor Bill Jeter, I do not have a report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. County Administrator Report. Philip Smith Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a few items this evening. First off, I have a bill for the Commission to approve. So for the benefit of our two new commissioners, we have a private group of individuals here in the community that have banded together to raise funds for restoration work on the exterior of the county courthouse. And we call them the Ellis County Courthouse Preservation Committee. In 2015, your commission and the Ellis County Historical Society entered into an agreement with this group whereby the donated funds are held by the Ellis County Historical Society, but only paid out for expenses upon approval of your commission. The commission has previously agreed that the chairperson of the commission can go ahead and approve expenses of up to $5,000 without bringing it to the commission. But in this particular instance, the Courthouse Preservation Committee is actually possibly nearing the end of some of their significant work and has done significant work with stone on the landing in front of the former west doors of the courthouse. So they do have a bill for your approval this evening in the amount of $17,660. Mr. Guy Windholtz actually has two checks totaling that amount that he would like the commission chair to sign, but I need all three of you to bless that before Chair Hazelhorse signs. Be happy to answer any questions about that.
Questions, Dustin?
No, I mean, so this is private funds that we hold for them, essentially.
We do not hold the funds. The Historical
Just approve them.
Society
Okay.
holds the funds, and we approve them, yes.
Okay.
And Guy's done all the fundraising out there. Do you know Guy Windholtz?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
And they're just about finished with that project is the thing.
They're getting pretty close. They're not, Guy has lots of plans, but they're getting pretty close to finishing up this part.
Okay.
Butch, any questions?
No questions.
Nope, that's fine with me. Do you need a motion?
I don't believe we need a motion, just as long as everybody's aware of the. The next item, I wanted to give the Commission a bit of an update on our Northwest Business Corridor work. So, as the Commission is aware, we had applied for some funding from a foundation and heard back at the end of April and were not selected for funding from that particular organization. So I've met with a number of folks in the community. We are continuing to try and explore different funding options, but there is essentially no single source of funding that's going to come through with the amount of money that would be needed. So I do believe that this will require a county bond of some variety. I spoke with our bond counsel, Gilmore and Bell, on Friday, and he gave me some great information, but also suggested that the next step for us would be to work with a financial advisor to actually develop a financial plan for the funding, and then there would be several possibilities at that point. Would not all have to be in the form of a bond, but just having that funding or having that financial plan would be the first step. So in the past, on our last bond issue, we worked with one particular financial advisor. That's been long enough ago at this point that I feel like we probably ought to go to RFP and select someone. So that would be my intent, unless one of you wants to stop me. I'll be issuing an RFP to select a financial advisor. Wanted to make you aware of that. The other thing I will mention is that the review committee has reviewed statements of qualifications by design engineers and has a recommendation. We've entered into contract negotiations with one particular firm, and I'm hoping to bring that to you next Monday. It may be 2 Mondays from now, depending on how quick we can get everything nailed down. But we are moving along with that. Be happy to answer any questions about that. Then my last item for this evening, just wanted to make you aware that we have received a request from our insurance carriers with K-Camp. We do have some county buildings that are located in designated floodplains, including 601 Main. So they have put us on notice that they do not offer flood insurance, just, like your homeowner's insurance, right? And so I will be needing the commission chair to sign a letter stating that we are aware that these buildings are in a floodplain and giving us the option to request flood insurance. So just wanted to make sure the commission is aware of that before I bring that request to Chairman Hazelhorst. That's all I have this evening. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Phil?
No questions, Phil.
Do we carry any kind of flood insurance, or do we feel like that's not a risk that's worth spending money on?
We haven't covered, we haven't carried flood insurance. For the most part, I would say it's probably a risk that we could assume. One of the properties, for example, that's in the floodplain is the county fairgrounds, but none of the actual buildings are in the floodplain, just a portion of the grounds. So 601 Main presents an interesting question only because of the new improvements there. In its former condition, I would have said a flood couldn't do it any harm. But now that we've invested significant resources in it, we might just look at getting a quote and see how much it would cost us to insure it.
Okay. Too, I think with that improvement of the dam around the city that they did, I think that was a big help also to keep the downtown from ever flooding. Also, I think that was a big improvement they did.
Yeah, the risk is probably fairly low, but there are still portions of downtown that are designated in the 100-year floodplain. There are new flood maps that are currently in process for the county. There's actually a review session, I believe it's June 5th, that Mason Reuter and I will be attending to talk about those new maps, but I doubt that 601 comes out of the floodplain as a result of those. So,
sure.
Well, I'd say that sounds like something that maybe when you get time, take a look at the cost of some sort of high deductible plan. That, I just don't think it would be a risk I'd be willing to take on my own. But if it's very inexpensive, might be worth covering us, and at least you could make us a recommendation on that.
If I recall, It was 1993, the last time they had to put sandbags around that place.
Okay.
And the water did come up to the sandbags, but that was about all.
Okay.
Never got closer than that.
So if we keep Bill Ring on notice, we can probably save it either
They'll
way.
bring us 6 truckloads of sand and dump it around the building or something.
I'll grab a shovel. I don't care.
County Commission reports. Dustin?
So we talked about a little earlier in the meeting. I got to go out and give Alan Cobb a tour of our Northwest Corridor project, which it was really nice to be able to sit and talk with him. You know, a great guy, and I appreciate him taking time out of his day to spend it looking at a project like this. When I asked that question, it was at my first Leadership Kansas orientation, and it's quite the group of individuals that I got to meet at that. Anywhere from the president of the Board of Regents for Kansas to the only guy that's younger than me in the class that I believe is we have what's called a bus buddy who makes sure we get on the buses because they don't like us being late for the bus. But he's 2 years younger than me, and he's a venture entrepreneur in Wichita. So he and I will get along real well in terms of stuff, and he's already told me he'd look at my business and give me some recommendations. So I'll see how good he is at that too. And then I did have a few discussions. It's been a few weeks since our last meeting, so I was able to have a few discussions with Hays City commissioners, a little bit about the sales tax stuff, and got a little bit of a feel from them. So next time we get a line item for that, I'll discuss kind of the things that we had talked. Yeah, next week I think we have that line item. So I'll share kind of what they've come back to me with. It's the 3 that I know, and now one of them's leaving, so the other 2 are mainly the ones. But that's all I have for mine.
Butch?
On April 24th, I went to the Northwest Kansas Planning and Development Commission. And an item on their agenda was the fact that we said we're not going to pay them their full membership dues. In fact, we looked at cutting that $18,000. They weren't real happy about that issue. Some of the concerns they had with that was, in the first place, if it would even be legal. They're going to check with their bylaws. And also they're concerned about if we do that, what if other counties decide to do that? Now, some of the counties that were there that evening, again, there weren't too many represented that night again, but some of them said they understand the situation Ellis County's in. They read about it, they heard about it. Others didn't have a clue what kind of situation we were in and thought we just wanted to hold on to the money and not raise any taxes. So I tried to clarify things for them. But anyhow, on June 10th, Randall Raby, he's the executive director. He will be here and discuss that issue with us further.
Thank you, Butch. I guess I led a boring past couple of weeks. We have a Workforce One meeting on the 15th, I believe it is. I'll be attending, so have executive board meeting that day also, so we'll be in attendance of that and talked with them again today. So keep promoting jobs for Ellis County. That's kind of our number one discussion, so hopefully that'll happen in time. We can get more people here. Other than that, that's about it. We'll move on to executive sessions. Which one you want to do?
Which one first?
Probably with Carrie? Or
You want to do the property one first? That
Sure.
should be quicker, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that should be pretty quick.
Okay.
I'll make a motion. We go into executive session for the discussion of acquisition of real estate and regarding the expansion of the landfill. Those people attending will be the Board of Commissioners, Administrator Phil, and Councilor Jeter, and Public Works Director Ring. And it should, 10 minutes, 15 minutes? 15?
10? Sure. Phil says 10.
10 minutes.
We'll talk fast.
I second that motion.
Thank you, Dustin. No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries 3-0.